non-reciprocal, which means India used to demand things, but India never used to compromise much. We used to say we are a poor country, we need help, etc. So India was small enough. People used to overlook this. But now India is big. We are a big market. So now they will not be willing to overlook. They will want reciprocity. So partners expect India to play the reciprocity game. You can use this exact language. You open your markets or you reduce your freedom to protect. Only then we'll allow you to come into a market or we'll reduce our own freedom. India cannot say, see, I want to protect my market, but I also want to be able to access your market. And at the same time, I won't allow you to come into my market. This kind of discussion is not going to happen anymore, is what the economic survey says. So India has to accept that we are a big economy now. At the same time, you also have to be aware that there is a lot of poverty in the country also. So we need to tread a line which takes into account both these cases, big but too poor. We are big and we are poor in a lot of circumstances, in a lot of areas. So to preserve WTO, India has to join the game. What is the game? The game of reciprocity. So India has to play along with the other partners. Only then WTO can be preserved. Otherwise, it will be consigned to irrelevance. If countries like India, which are the bigger economies of the world now, is not participating properly in WTO, then the role of WTO in the world will become meaningless. And also a lot of the countries are moving towards regional agreements. So this trend is becoming larger and larger now. So India has to start playing along. India has to take a leadership role here. So we have to make it attractive for our trading partners to engage in WTO. And one way to make it attractive is if you come and engage in the WTO, then you can actually enter India. Now everyone wants to be able to enter India right now. So that will give them an incentive to participate in the WTO process. And multilateralism in WTO instead of regional cooperation. So we should be playing the reciprocity game. We should use our markets as a leverage. India's market is very attractive for other countries now. So we should use it as a leverage, and that should allow us to attain our own market interests abroad. So what are our main market interests? There are a lot of main market interests for us. One is being able to access these markets, especially through labor. We're not interested only in capital movement. We also want our people to be able to go abroad and work easily. So these negotiations can only happen if India plays the reciprocity game. Now, if India is reluctant, if India does not play this game, what can happen? So economic survey says the Trans-Pacific Partnership is a good illustration of what will happen if India continues to play the current game of being big but poor, in which we expect people to give but we don't reciprocate. Then we get excluded. So India is now considered as a roadblock. India has a perception that if India is part of the negotiation won't happen altogether. So they're leaving India out and starting partnerships. Now what will happen is India's important interests will not be part of the discussion then. Intellectual property, for example, is a good illustration. India has certain aspects of intellectual property which we want to impose, but in TPP, those things won't even be considered. India does not have a voice, and without a voice, we can't influence things. Now later on, India might have to join these agreements because India will actually lose out. We'll see that a bit later. And in that sense, by the time India joins, everything will already be fixed. India will not be able to influence anything. Do we really want to go on that path? Or wouldn't we rather be in WTO where every country has an equal say? It's a more democratic organization. Why can't we preserve that? That is a more important question. So economic survey gives a quick example of how India should behave, ideal behavior by India. So currently there's a lot of stress. As we saw, international environment is under stress. One example is China is slowing down. Global demand is weak. Now when China slows down, what can happen is that India's external competitiveness might come under pressure. China will have excess capacity. So what will happen is this can cause an import surge. Now whenever import surge is there, what option do we have? We have special safeguard mechanism and we have high tariff ceilings. We can use either one of these to respond to an import surge and try to protect our own industry. However, economic survey says that is not how India should respond. We should resist the temptation to seek recourse to protectionist measures. That's the language economic survey uses. We should not use the protectionist measures. Even though we have the weapons, we should not use those weapons. Instead, we should respond in three ways. First, keep competitive exchange rate. fair exchange rate. Resist the temptation to change the exchange rate too much. Strengthen WTO procedures because WTO allows us to have action against import surges, dumping, subsidization, countervailing duties, so special safeguard measures. So all these options are available via WTO. Use those options, especially anti-dumping or countervailing duty options. Third one, we should eliminate anything that provide negative protection. What is the meaning of negative protection? Which actually hurt. Negative protection means hurting our own industry. So India has a lot of policies that hurt our own industry. One example is the very, very multi-form tax system that is there in India right now, especially the indirect tax system. The indirect tax system is hurting our industry because it does not allow a proper one market in India. So implementing GST is one way to make our manufacturing more competitive. And in case delays might happen, we can also go for countervailing duties, what economic service says. So overall, first thing, keep exchange rate competitive. Second thing, go via established WTO route. Third, remove things that is constraining Indian industry. Instead of protecting Indian industry, boost the Indian industry. Overall, become pro-competition. So in the very first chapter, we have said that pro-competition is where we have to go, not pro-industry. So how do we create efficiency in agriculture and manufacturing? In services, we already have. To do that, we have to move from pro-business or pro-industry to pro-competition. That means we have to keep our economy open to competition. Now, exports, every country wants to have. Import is what every country actually does not like that much because it hurts the industries. But moving from pro-industry to pro-competition means, yes, even imports has to be allowed to come inside. So India has to become a more open economy is what they're saying. Now, this will have a lot of efficiency effects. Efficiency effects means trade will improve efficiency of a country. Now, my domestic industry is now exposed to greater competition because imports are coming in. Now, that will create incentives and more resources will move towards export sector also. How this works is that my industry becomes better, and when my industry becomes better, they will be able to compete in the world market also. So I will be able to start producing more towards export as well. This happens only because of better competition. Competition has to happen, only then my industry will become stronger. Now, if you remember the Chakravyuha chapter, there also we had discussed skirting an issue which can be done by bringing in competition. So bringing in import is a good way to ensure greater competition in India. So that is what the economic survey again recommends. So overall, exit Chakravyuha we found ourselves in. We started a system under which India is highly protectionist. So our trade policy became highly protectionist. Then we got stuck in that trade policy, because of which India's competitiveness in the economy was actually less. Now we have to exit that Chakravyuha. So greater competition will also mean some of the uncompetitive, the bad industries will start exiting. So we have the exit issue slightly being solved by bringing in more competition into the economy. Now, whenever you have trade liberalization, what will happen? Some guys, these companies, they're shutting down, they're done. So what happens? A lot of people now will be unemployed. So a lot of people are unemployed, a lot of companies are shut down. What will happen? We have to somehow provide help there. Targeted assistance to these people has to be provided because these are the people who will resist this. Now this is required because otherwise we will not be able to negotiate credibly. We have to open up and allow greater competition in the economy. And we have to do things like assistance if anything is causing a resistance against opening up. Now, economic survey, this is a full sentence from economic survey, very, very useful. We have an ambivalence about foreign competition because we don't like imports. We want to protect our own industry. Now, this also comes from a lot of domestic politics because exit is always frowned upon because India's economy was always very fragile in nature. So shutting down companies was always frowned upon. So that became a big problem for India. So this was the heart of India's difficulties in WTO. India became highly protectionist in nature. And overall our trade policy and all our trade agreements. So somehow if we can exit this Chakravyuha of being highly protectionist and become more open to competition, then our trade problems also will dissolve, as we saw in chapter 2. So this Chakravyuha also we have to exit from. That is what the economic survey's final word on the matter is. Now, the next part, which is chapter 8 actually. Now we are under chapter 8 of economic survey, proper chapter 8. Chapter 8 discusses India's free trade agreements. So India has always been committed to multilateralism in the WTO. However, we have also negotiated a lot of free trade agreements, especially with a lot of Asian trading partners. So typically, these FTAs tend to be regional in nature because regional trade agreements will boost regional GDP. So India has around 42 FTAs. So FTA has been growing at a very fast rate. FTA means India will go to one country and negotiate an agreement there, go to another country, negotiate an agreement there. Like that, lot of agreements are being negotiated now. So a few of them are reviewed by Economic Survey. So Economic Survey looks at the impact. What was the result of all these FTAs? First thing it says is that imports and exports have increased, out of which imports is more than exports. So imports have increased a lot. Overall trade has been increased by around 50% in around 4 years. That is a general trend. Asian FTA had the greatest impact. Now why? Because tariff reduction was the greatest there. So India reduced maximum tariff there. A lot of import was allowed. So similarly, when one country reduces tariff, other countries also will reduce. So Asian FTA was most effective. Import side, as we saw here, was more impact was there, and also textiles side on exports was more impact was there. So on the import side, metals had impact. On the export side, textiles had impact, but overall import side had more impact. These are some of the impacts of India's FTAs isolated by Economic Survey. So these preferential trade agreements are very similar again between certain trade partners. So again, it has been proliferating. Proliferating means a lot of them are coming. So 619 PTAs since as of 2015. So 24% growth rate is happening. Again, numbers are not important. Here I have just shown this in case a prelims question comes. All WTO members except Mongolia have PTAs. Only Mongolia doesn't seem to have a PTA. Now countries like EU, Chile, Mexico, etc. have more than 20 PTAs. So a lot of trade agreements are being signed by them. So very popular, but are they beneficial? And for India, are they good? These are the questions being posed by Economic Survey. We already saw the summary. So we will go into a bit more detail now. So first of all, there are different types of preferential trade agreements. Now, depending on how much integration is there and how much coordination is there, we can say at which level PTAs fall. So we have 5 levels. First is the partial scope agreement. So these are all preferential. You're giving preferential treatment to some partner. A partial scope agreement means very partial in scope. Only on some goods, only a small number of goods, we are allowing that we'll allow trade. And other goods trade might not be allowed or might have high tariff, etc. Second is a proper free trade agreement, an FTA. So FTA is a subcategory under PTA. So PTA is here. FTA will be a subcategory under a PTA. So here, members reduce tariff among themselves. However, so think of it like this. Suppose India is there, China is there, Bangladesh is there, Pakistan is there. These guys form a free trade agreement. Now, among each other, they will reduce tariff. But suppose they are interacting with, say, America. There, they will keep their own tariff. So these countries do not interfere in how each of them put tariff with external people. Internally, they have decided, but externally is not decided. So every country will have their own tariff rates for non-members. That is important to remember. So in FTA, members have negotiated tariff rate within themselves, but with non-members, they can put whatever tariff they want. Next is a customs union. A customs union is next level, in which members will have a free trade agreement, but they'll also have a common external tariff, which means all non-members, their tariff is also decided by the union itself. So customs union is the next step after free trade agreement. Next comes a common market. So common market is again the next step. So here all factors of production is easily movable. What are the factors of production? We have land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. All these factors of production, free movement is allowed. That is a common market. So that's again the next step after customs union. In customs union, it's only about trade. In common market, it's about all factors of production, not just goods. Then comes a much higher stage, or the highest stage, economic union. Economic union is a common market, and here all the countries coordinate on macroeconomic policies and exchange rate policies. Now, next step could be a currency union where they decide we'll have a single currency itself. So that is where EU reached, European Union. So it's a increasing level of integration through these 5 forms, and all of them are called preferential trade agreements. So what are India's main FTAs? So India overall has a commitment to multilateralism, but we also have been having a lot of FTAs, especially with Asian countries. Now a list is given here. These can come as potential prelims questions. So bilateral FTAs with Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Thailand, Singapore, Bhutan, Nepal, Korea, Malaysia, and Japan. Latest one is Japan. Couple of regional agreements. Bilateral means between 2 countries. Regional means multiple countries. We have the SAFTA and we have the ASEAN. So India has an agreement with ASEAN itself. India is not part of ASEAN, please remember that. And this agreement is also under flux right now. We are not sure how it is going to pan out. Now outside Asia, we have Chile, we have Mercosur, etc. So these are some of the examples highlighted by Economic Survey. You should be aware of these guys, and questions can come directly from this. Now questions come like this. Among the following agreements, which of them is India not a partner of? Or in which of the following is India a partner of? That kind of questions can come. So this is a full list, and you can see the number is increasing as we get closer to 2010. So we have India, Africa, India, Pacific, a lot of them are there, Maldives, Chile, Bangladesh, Bhutan. So again, go through the list once so that you'll be able to just quickly be familiar with it. Now this is how much integration is there in different FTAs. So what Economic Survey has done is it's taken a few of these FTAs and it's just checking how much integration is there. National treatment is not there in ASEAN. Rules of origin is not there in Japan. Non-tariff measures is not there in Japan CPA. Classification is not there here. Anti-dumping is not there here. So different agreements are different in nature. That is what is being tried to be shown. So same for services also. So here what the Economic Survey is trying to say is different agreements are different in nature. So we have to evaluate them in different criteria, which Economic Survey does also. Now mega regionalism means earlier we used to have regional agreements. Now we have mega regional agreements where huge number of countries in covering a big part of the globe is becoming a single agreement. So PTAs have begun to morph into mega regional agreements. So PTAs on steroids, some languages used by Economic Survey. 2 major ones discussed are TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, signed, not ratified at the time of Economic Survey. Then we have the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. So TTIP. This is again was being negotiated at the time of Economic Survey. So first TPP, these are the member countries. Potential prelims questions can come from here. Which among the following is not a member? Which among the following is a member, etc. Economic Survey says 40% of global GDP will be covered under TPP. 33% of world trade will be covered under TPP. So this TPP is a huge agreement covering some of the most important countries, and 40% of global GDP will be part of this. Now World Bank says by 2030, TPP will raise all members countries' GDP by 0.4 to 10%, because non-tariff barriers will come down, trade will increase, and when trade increases, NX increases, I increases, and GDP increases. Non-members might suffer a marginal reduction because trade diversion will happen. So trade creation is happening because of these guys together, acting together. But what will happen is some of the trade of the United States will now move away from India and move towards, for example, Malaysia, etc. because they have agreed to the partnership. So trade diversion will also happen. Now, in India's case, we are expecting a slight reduction in GDP because of this effect. Then comes TTIP, so United States and EU. So around 27 member states plus United States. So this will be 30% of trade, 40% of trade in service, and half of global GDP. So again, a mega regional partnership because the 2 biggest blocks, US and EU, will be part of this. Now, India, unfortunately, is not part of these groupings. So we'll be outside this huge trade zone. We will not get the extra GDP benefit. However, India has our own PTA with some of these members, but we are not part of this huge new PTA being formed. And there, India might be missing out. So Economic Survey clearly says that India should be trying to become part of it. Now, this is just a graphic illustration of the same. The blue is TIPP. Whatever is pink is in both. So this is also part of this. Whatever is red is TPP along with US again. So US is common to both. That's why it's pink in color. Now, what should India do? Should India be part of this PTA? Should India try to become part? What should we do? Now, normally any reduction in trade barrier will improve trade because more market access, more specialization, all these things happen. So whenever trade increases, GDP tends to increase normally. However, an FTA cannot be evaluated on this alone because trade diversion can also happen, as we discussed. Instead of trade being created, what can happen is that from a non-FTA member to an FTA member. Suppose India is here, Bangladesh is here, Pakistan is here. So suppose India was trading 50 with Pakistan, 50 with Bangladesh. Now India and Bangladesh sign a FTA. So what will happen? Part of this will get diverted to Bangladesh. So here it might become 20, here it might become 80. So it might seem as if trade creation has happened, but actually trade diversion has happened. This is the difference between trade diversion and trade creation. Trade creation will be when this remains same 50, this becomes 100. That is new trade being created. Now, when you divert towards less efficient members, that actually hurts the overall trading block also because they'll be less competitive. So we will be actually encouraging less competitive companies in the regional area. So does actually FTA improve welfare is a question to be asked. Economic survey asked that question. There is a lot of analysis there. We don't have to get into the analysis part. Overall, import, export, subsectors. What is the effect of FTA? So in detail examination is done. And in the end, and gravity model is used. So again, not very important for exam, just mentioning because it is mentioned in the economic survey. It's a very famous model of trade. So all it says is that bilateral trade flows between countries depends on two things. One, trade is depending on the size of the two countries. So two big countries trading will have more trade. So size of two countries matter. Second, it is inversely proportional to distance between the two countries. So if the countries are very far away, trade will be less between them. Now here distance is also a proxy for difference, meaning if two countries are very different in nature, there also trade will be less. So countries which are big, more trade. Countries which are far, less trade. Countries which are very different, less trade. That is called the gravity model. So this is similar to Newton's theory of gravity, right? Directly proportional to the size of the two bodies. If two planets are there, both are very big, they'll be more attracted to each other. Inversely proportional distance between them. The attraction is less if distance is more. So it is similar to the Newton theory of gravity, which is why it's called the gravity model of trade. So the main results of economic survey is this. We already saw this. Effect of trade is positive, first thing. And it is not just diversion. Actually, creation is also happening. Imports more impacted than export, primarily because India had high tariffs. So whenever we reduce tariff, import will increase. Some industries are more affected than other industries. In the case of imports, metals and textiles are more affected. In the case of exports, apparel industry is more affected. Persistent effects are there, which means it is not just for some period, it's actually persisting over a period of time. It's more long-term in nature. Asian FTA, we seem to have the major result, biggest trade impact, primarily because maximum import tariff reduction. So again, more import will come from Asian, so more effect or more impact there. So based on that, should we continue this policy of FTAs or should we not? That is the question. Should we continue negotiating, and whom should we continue negotiating with? And what about mega regional agreement? What should be India's position about the new mega regional agreement? What should we do? So economic survey says multilateral trade liberalization is the best way, which means WTO is the best. That's what economic surveys say. However, if preferential trade agreements are overtaking it, then we should move towards this also. We have a strategic choice to make. Should we move towards PTA game also? Now, India's PTA do increase. We have seen that PTAs are beneficial. Benefits are there. So that means, yes, we should continue with FTAs. At the same time, we should also continue with WTO. So we should do both. That is the answer. Both is the answer economic survey gives. PTA and WTO. So progress on FTA must be combined with strengthening WTO consistent measures. So India must prepare for a mega regional world, which means we should accept the PTAs, etc. We should probably become part of TPP, etc. But also strengthen the WTO, because WTO is where we have better chance of influencing. In a TTP, for example, even if India join, our role will be less. Whereas in a WTO, it's more democratic in nature, so easier to have an impact. So we should strengthen the WTO. So again, much more discussion on this in the YouTube video about WTO. Now it's time to move into the next chapter. Let's take a very short break here of 2 minutes. Ask any questions you might be having, etc. In case of any issues you're facing about audio, video, etc. Again, please let us know. We'll move into the next chapter about fertilizer in another 2 minutes. So now let's move into the fertilizer discussion. So here also we have a Chakravyuha. So again, we have seen most of the Chakravyuhas in the beginning itself. Here we will go into more detail and see that the Chakravyuha in fertilizer is primarily about urea. So that is what we are going to discuss in this particular chapter. So again, a brief overview of what the chapter is all about. First thing, as we already seen in multiple areas, fertilizer accounts for large subsidies in the country. It is the second highest after food. 0.73 lakh crore subsidies go into fertilizer. That is 0.5% of GDP. Now of this is what you have to remember, this is what you have to remember, and this is what you have to remember. Food subsidy is more than fertilizer subsidy, is more than fuel subsidy. That is the order in India. Now, of this huge 0.73 lakh crore subsidy, only 17,500 crore or only 35% goes to small farmers or actual intended beneficiaries. Rest are going to whom? Rest are going to the well-off. So like we discussed earlier, a lot of subsidies just goes to well-off, not to the small farmers. Now, inside the subsidy sector, the urea sector is highly regulated. So that causes a big black market, and black market always hurts the small farmers again. How that happens, we will see. Incentivizes production inefficiency. How that happens, again, we'll see. Because subsidy is there in urea, people overuse urea. This causes depletion of soil quality, damage to human health, etc. because overuse is bad. Urea actually makes the soil quality, water quality, etc. damaged. Now, next thing is domestic availability has to be increased. In India, domestic availability is low, primarily because imports are highly restrictive in nature. Our imports are restricted through something called canalization. So we have to move towards decanalization. Again, we'll see this a bit later. This is just a summary. We'll see this in the next few slides. Now, next part is provide benefits directly. So jam can be used again. So we have to, restrictive imports has to be removed, and benefits has to become direct in nature, and jam has to be applied on fertilizer system as well. So this is the overview of the chapter. Now let's get into the details of it. First, economic survey says let's understand and then reform. So there are some things already implemented. For example, neem coating of urea was implemented. Gas pooling was implemented. What these are, we will see. So now the question is, where else? Next reform should be where? So before we get into reform agenda, first we are going to understand all the features of the fertilizer sector. There are some problems of the fertilizer sector. There are some major distortions. We'll understand that and then we will go and see what the reform agenda should be like. But before that, let's understand what is this neem coating, what is this gas pooling. It is only mentioned in economic survey. Economic survey doesn't give discussion or detail about either of these things. Economic survey assumes that you guys know. So if economic survey is assuming you guys know, that means you guys actually should be knowing. So questions can come, prelims questions, main questions can come about both of these things, gas pooling and neem coating. So let's quickly examine what they mean. So first, what is the meaning of neem coating? So what government did is, urea was neem coated. The reason is because, how does black marketing happen in urea? Urea is subsidized for domestic consumers or for households. But urea is not subsidized for industrial purposes. So what used to happen is that people used to somehow get more urea in the household sector. They will have ghost beneficiaries, etc., and they'll somehow get extra urea there, and then they will sell it to the industrial sector. So here black market starts happening. So lot of urea starts getting diverted to the black market directly, and the actual beneficiaries don't even get it. So everything goes to black market. So again, let me just draw this out better. Urea is coming in. It is supposed to go to the farmers. However, this is subsidized in nature. Urea can also go to the industrial sector. This is not subsidized in nature. They have to pay full amount. Now, obviously, they don't want to pay full amount here. So what they do is they divert from here to here, and their black market starts happening. Now what happens, after some time, urea stops going directly to farmers. Instead, urea gets diverted more towards black market directly. Now, after some time, farmers are not able to buy the things directly. Farmers also have to buy from black market. Industries also have to buy from black market. So black market becomes the biggest place for purchasing urea, because all urea or majority of it is getting diverted to black market and not to the actual intended purpose. So all subsidized urea goes to black market. Then with high prices, they are sold to farmers and to industries. So what happens? Farmers are hurt a lot from this whole process. Now, to avoid this, what the government did is, government started neem coating urea. The benefit of neem coating is, then that neem coated urea only will go to farmers. Subsidized urea is all neem coated urea. Now, beauty of this is that it cannot be diverted to industrial uses, because the neem coated urea cannot be used for industrial purposes. So suddenly the whole black market system can be partially negotiated. Now it also helps the farmers a bit, reduces nitrogen loss, etc. There are some other benefits also to it. So if a mains question comes, you have to mention this also. Now what is gas pooling? Gas pooling means it's a gas price pooling policy which was initiated in 2015. So under the scheme, it's very simple. Domestic natural gas is averaged or pooled with the cost of imported LNG, and there will be uniform rate for fertilizer plants. So fertilizer plants across the country will get the same price under the new gas price pooling policy. So how this makes it different is that all fertilizer plants need natural gas, because from natural gas only they are able to create urea. But now they will be able to get the natural gas at a uniform price. So price distortions that happens due to various reasons will disappear. Now earlier what used to happen is, every plant used to make its own contracts. So every plant will have various costs. So every plant's price of natural gas used to be different. Now anywhere a plant is located with no cheap domestic gas easily available, they used to suffer problems. So under gas price pooling policy, all delivered gas will be at the uniform price and connected to natural gas grid. Only for players connected to the grid, of course. Now here, what will the benefit is that leveling of gas costs will mean that people will now compete based on energy efficiency and production volume, and not on price of natural gas input. So the competition used to be about who can get the cheapest natural gas, but now everyone will get same price. So competition will be about who can make the best kind and who can be more efficient in producing the urea. So more detail, you can go to the PIB website. There's a print release about the gas price pooling policy, which we have provided here. So now we enter the proper urea market. There's a lot of urea distortions. 73,000 crore, 0.5% fertilizer subsidy for 2015-16 budget. Out of the total fertilizer subsidy, 70% goes to urea only. It is the most commonly used fertilizer. It is the largest subsidy after food. In fact, urea becomes the biggest subsidy after food itself in the entire country. Now, why so many distortions come is because there are a lot of regulations about urea. One, only agricultural urea is subsidized. Like we discussed earlier, industrial urea is not subsidized. So, moment this happens, diverting happens. One product, one price principle we had seen earlier. One product, one price principle is being violated. So we have diversion of urea to industry. Sometimes cross-border smuggling also happens because it is cheaper to get subsidized urea and then sell it at high price even in Bangladesh, etc. Bangladesh, Nepal, all these areas. So these are called urea leakages. Instead of going to the farming sector, it is going to industrial sector, it is going to overseas. So all these areas it is going. So 24% is spent on inefficient urea producers because it's based on cost. Urea subsidy is based on cost plus kind of subsidy. So mostly people who are having high cost will get more subsidy. So 24% is going on inefficient people. 41% is going for non-agriculture uses and abroad. Matlab industry and abroad. 24% is consumed by large farmers. This is the well-off is getting it, not the actual intended beneficiaries. So these are a bulk of subsidy being leaked out of the actual intended beneficiaries. So only 35% actually goes to intended small and marginal farmers who actually require subsidy. Rest are going to unnecessary or other uses. So only 17,500 crore goes to the proper people. The second reason is urea is underpriced. The other two fertilizer, NPK, urea is for nitrogen. There is potassium and potash also. Phosphorus and potassium also. So NPK, so urea is the most cheapest. So everyone buys more urea and less PNK. So this means overuse of urea happens. So because overuse of anything is bad for environment, more nitrogen starts accumulating in the soil. This causes depletion of soil quality. A lot of this nitrogen starts going into water bodies and causes algal bloom, etc. there also. So all these problems come because of overuse of urea because it's highly underpriced. Third, we have a lot of price movement controls across states. Different manufacturers have different subsidies. There are a lot of import restrictions. All these means efficient use of resources is not happening in the sector. So multiple distortions. So economic survey doesn't go into the details of this. It focuses on this and the first distortion. So again, it is an example of exit problem or Chakravyuha problem. Again, chapter 2 is about Chakravyuha. You can go and discuss, refer there if you have any doubts. One box comes up here. So we have box 9.1. It's the ABC of fertilizer. So here is more like NPK of fertilizer, not ABC. 3 basic types of fertilizers are used in India. One is urea, that is for N. Second is for diammonium.